I'm turning out this video very quickly to make amends for a catastrophic error I made in my last video on Libra, part of my Bootcamp for Saints video series. Now in it, I moved forward with a theory going around on YouTube. You already know I was in trouble. That said the Temple Mount in Jerusalem is not where the temples of Solomon and Herod actually were. It claims that they were nearby in what is known as the city of David. Now I now know for a fact that the Temple Mount is in fact exactly where those temples stood. It's very important to have a reputation for integrity. In fact, your reputation is all you really have, especially if you're an aspiring YouTube creator like me. That's why it was important to get this video out quickly as soon as this was brought to my attention. This video by Hillel Richmond has firmly corrected me on this issue, and I revoked that position without any reservation or qualm. Now, while I'm not one to make excuses for errors like this, and neither do I like it when other people make excuses, there are three mitigating factors. First, my videos are part of an ongoing evolution of my theories about history and philosophy and religion. And I've changed my mind several times in videos leading into this, and I no doubt will do that again. Second, the case seemed credible. As I said in the video, they all had different ideas, different supporting ideas and documentation, and they all came to the same conclusion. And I did search diligently on YouTube for counter arguments, and I did not find any. So I was surprised after I had released my video on Libra to discover 3 videos countering that specific argument on my main page. Dr. Richmond's argument was one of them. Now finally, while the accusation that the authorities are lying about the original site of the temples of Solomon and Herod seems crazy, I myself have a lot of seemingly crazy theories, which I have thoroughly and publicly documented and supported with evidence. And in the process, I have documented several cases of very powerful people lying about very important facts, sometimes for centuries, and getting away with it. So, why would this be any different? For example, we just had a research paper released on Roman DNA from the deepest Stone Age all the way to the early modern. My position on the Romans, my ancestors, is we are descendants of the Minoans on Crete. We are not from the steppes of Russia like everyone insists. I've said that in several of my videos. Well, sure enough, in the Iron Age, leading up to the Empire, men with provable ancestry from the steppes of Russia suddenly pop up all over central Italy. In fact, men like me with the J2AY chromosome don't show up at all in any of their samples from the Iron Age. Here, the people in the darker green, as a general rule, should be my Romans, like me. These are my guys. And the guys in the darker blue, again as a general rule, the guy on the far left is a Stone Age guy, would be men from the steppes of Russia, whose ancestors came from there. And I would also add, we weren't the only men who later became known as the Romans. Other men migrated up and down the Balkan Peninsula and through the Mediterranean along with us. But when I line up the Iron Age internment sites by age, an obvious pattern emerges. The men with the steppe ancestry are not Romans. They are Etruscans, which means they probably did not even speak an Indo-European language, much less Italic. However, the man in the middle of the list from Ardea, here sample 850, with a T1A1 Y chromosome, probably was a Roman. And in the bottom, in red, sample R437, who I label as closer to the southern Italians, obviously had an Etruscan father and a Roman mother. As you can see, they're completely different groups of people. Sample 475 on the graph, on the far left, is apparently a woman who immigrated from Turkey. That's why she's so far out there. And the man on the right in the center, the blue dot, number 1, is an Iron Age Liburnian. So he either immigrated from the Balkan Peninsula across the Adriatic Sea or his parents did. And his people were certainly not Romans, which is why he also is such an obvious outlier. I have not done a video on DNA research for a couple of years now, and it's precisely because of nonsense like this. That's a video hero, which I will link below. In it, I talk about a paper on Neolithic and early Bronze Age DNA from mostly the Balkan Peninsula and the western steppes of Russia. And I noted that every single time I needed DNA samples from a certain site in a certain time, they didn't have any for me. Now, it was already obvious to me by then and I'd commented on that on previous videos. And it's even more obvious to me now that somebody or some group of people in the DNA research community hates men like me with a J2A Y chromosome, and they are clearly suppressing samples. I can find no other explanation for this. In addition, the papers themselves badly misrepresent the data that they do get, as we see here. See, I always have to walk past the papers. I'll read them respectfully, and then I walk past the papers, go to the data, because I find out they misrepresented the data. We clearly see that with the newest Roman DNA paper. I cannot have possibly been the only person to notice this pattern. Look at all the names on this document. Most of this thing I couldn't even read. That's how much of a non-specialist I am. Now, since that paper on Hero, the video, there's been a paper on Minoan and Mycenaean Greek DNA, missing what I needed, and a really pathetic and insulting paper on DNA samples from the vast Neolithic settlement of Çatalhöyük in south central Turkey. I don't even think I posted a comment on Facebook about that paper. I was personally insulted by it, actually. So yes, once again, people lie a lot about a lot of important things, and sometimes they get away with it for centuries. And once again, why would this be any different? But I broke a promise that I made on every single video, that I will use the best sources that I can, precisely because my theories are so batshit crazy. And this time I broke that promise. That will never happen again.